Marcus, Tattersall Distilling, super happy to be talking to you. We've been working on this single barrel of rye whiskey for a while, and it's here. I love it. I'm so happy we're giving it out to the people. But for someone that maybe hasn't heard of Tattersall or is kind of on the fence of there's a lot of whiskey out there, why should I get this one? First of all, when you look on the back of the label, it says this is a Monongahela? Hela? I'm not sure. It's a Monongahela style rye whiskey. What the heck is that? Can you explain what is this rye whiskey and what that means?
So Monongahela.
Oh God, I messed it up.
You were close. I might even be wrong, but I think it's pronounced Monongahela. Refers to a style of whiskey that the pioneers used to make, specifically referring to the Monongahela River, which is near Pennsylvania and Maryland.
Okay.
It's often referred to as the first American whiskey, and it's characterized by a heavy rye quality because corn wasn't really abundant in early America. In a broader definition, it's rye whiskey made from local grains, and ours is 100% rye. 15% of that rye is malted, so it is a little different than other 100% rye. And all of that rye, like in reference to the style, is being sourced from about 40 miles north of our distillery in Minneapolis.
This is a throwback of styles. It's going back to using local grains, all rye, and you said you get your rye locally. Where do you get it from, and how does that make a difference, compared to, we just go and buy, commodity rye from wherever we can get it?
We get our rye from Cambridge, Minnesota, which is almost straight north, 40 miles from the Twin Cities. And it's from a farmer named Dale Anderson. And that's kind of just part of what we like to do in terms of our distillery. We want to source ingredients locally first and then regionally. And there's a couple reasons for that. First and foremost, we really want to source the best things we can locally because of environmental reasons, because of supporting local economies. Secondly, we wanted to honor specifically for the rye that Monongahela tradition of locally sourced grains. So I think we wanted to really commit to that throwback style. And finally, the Minnesota climate and soil are really great for growing rye. It's kind of a hardier grain, and it thrives really well in our colder climates. And it really was kind of a no-brainer. It just sort of felt like the layup for us.
That makes sense to me. I really appreciate that you guys want to support the local agriculture. I like the throwback to history. I always think that's cool to do things that are traditional. And one of the things that I really like about the store pick and working with you guys is that we were able to decide, do we want to cut that proof down from the barrel proof, all the alcohol in it, add some water, cut it down, which has its place, or not. And when we tasted everything, we thought this is great barrel proof. So it's 128.4, which is a lot of alcohol. But it works. And one of the things that makes it work, I think, is the fact that there's some malted rye in it.
Yeah.
But people should know there is a good portion of alcohol in this bottle, maybe more than you're used to. And if you buy this, what does that, barrel proof level of alcohol mean as you're thinking of drinking it or making cocktails with it?
So there's a lot there. Like in terms of drinking, you're going to get almost the best expression of the spirit when it is at that proof. Because most whiskeys, when they enter a bottle, when they're being bottled, they're diluted in some way. Whether they need to meet an 80 proof marker to be called whiskey, or our non-single barrels are just our normal everyday rye is 100 proof because it's considered a straight rye whiskey, which is also a designation. And then, of course, you have your barrel proof, which for you guys is 128 proof. So it's a lot of proof. it just means that there's less water added to it. So you're getting a better expression of that spirit. You're tasting the distillate a little better. Obviously, the rye is the distillate in this case. You're tasting all the different characteristics that rye whiskey has. You brought up the malted part. I think you're really, really at that proof. Without that additional dilution, you really get an idea of what malt is adding to the rye whiskey. It's adding these really beautiful, rich characteristics. And then you also get a lot of what the barrel adds to whiskey. So that's kind of drinking it on its own. If you're mixing into cocktails, you got to think whenever you shake or whenever you stir or whenever you're pouring a cocktail over ice, you're adding another level of dilution. You're taking away a little bit more of that pure spirit. Dilution is really important in cocktails. You know, you don't want to just drink a 120 proof old fashioned because it's just going to be really hot. You want to be able to sip and enjoy that. So adding a little dilution is important. But when you start off with a higher dilution point, like with your barrel proof whiskey, you're able to control the dilution a little more and still get the expression of the cocktail. So a lot of traditional rye cocktails all start with pretty much like 100 proof whiskey, you know, and it really can go from there. And at the end of the day, like with all cocktails and like with all spirits, and you know this being on the retail side, it's really what you enjoy and what you want to drink and how you want to drink the cocktails. But we're giving you the option to add the dilution because we're starting off with a more pure form.
So speaking of cocktails,
yeah,
what are some great cocktails for this? I've already made a Manhattan, and
okay.
I was like, ooh, this is good. So there's Manhattans that are an obvious answer. I prefer rye in my old fashions. I know in Wisconsin, brandy is, you know, I know I might be a little off base, but what are some of your favorite cocktails to make with this bottle of Minnesota rye, Monongahela? Gosh, I got it wrong again. Style whiskey.
Maybe I like the Manhattan. I like an old fashioned, obviously with rye. Maybe we can come to some sort of compromise. There's a cocktail called the Vieux Carré, referring to the brandy old fashioned and the rye old fashioned. We can come to a compromise. There's a cocktail called a Vieux Carré, which is an old New Orleans cocktail. Vieux Carré, I think, just meant like the city center or the town square area. And it's rye whiskey, it's cognac or brandy, Benedictine, which is an old kind of herbal liqueur made from monks. And then there's also some Peychaud bitters in there as well. And so that's kind of a cool expression of rye and brandy together.
It sounds very Catholic. Maybe it's good for a Friday fish fry.
There you go. Yeah, perfect. That's a perfect Wisconsin thing. Yeah, I think stirred cocktails are really where it's at with our rye whiskey. Obviously, old fashioned, Manhattan, Vieux Carré. Another New Orleans cocktail, the Sazerac, is a really great cocktail. The Vieux Carré is kind of a twist on the Sazerac. But this time of year, as the weather is slowly changing, both in Minnesota and in Wisconsin, and I'm in Chicago, we all suffer that same lovely Midwestern climate at this time of year. Hot cocktails with this rye whiskey are awesome. So a traditional
hot toddy.
A hot toddy is really great. I like to sub out honey in my hot toddies with maple syrup for this cocktail. Yeah, for this whiskey. And then even apple cider cocktails, because, you know, we're coming a little out of apple season, but there's still plenty of cider to be had. Some hot cider with our rye whiskey, again, maple syrup or honey. That's a really great winter cocktail.
So it's winter. We're heading into the holidays. Well, we are in it, whatever. Yeah. A lot of people are looking for a gift for someone on their list. Why would you tell someone this is the perfect gift for someone that likes whiskey, someone that likes drinking? Why should they buy Tattersall, our store pick of rye whiskey, as a gift for someone on their list?
Man, that's a great question. There's a lot of reasons why. I think first and foremost, you're supporting. Well, of course, first and foremost, it's delicious. You won't be unhappy. But you're not only supporting a local business, Lake Geneva Country Meats, you're supporting a local distillery, not just regionally. We are literally weeks away from moving the bulk of our production into River Falls, Wisconsin. I'm thinking actually next week, our destination distillery in River Falls will be opening. So you're supporting local.
Yeah.
What was that?
It's going to be so cool.
It's going to be awesome. Well, I'm super excited about it. We've been kind of, I mean, I haven't, but my boss has been burning the candles at both ends to get this up and running. They're very excited. So you'd be supporting local Wisconsin business, local Midwest business, not just Tattersall and you folks, but also Dale Anderson's farm with the rye whiskey. You're really kind of keeping this closed loop of local business. So that's one reason. The 100% rye at barrel proof, a single barrel no less, is kind of a rare style for whiskey. You don't see a lot of single barrel ryes. So that's another reason to do it. If you have that whiskey drinker at home that seeks rare bottles, single barrel ryes are a little harder to find than single barrel bourbons.
For sure.
And price wise, it's priced pretty affordably for craft whiskey, especially at the proof that you guys have it at.
Yeah.
And then it's delicious. Once again, we can't reiterate that enough, that it's got these beautiful, when we tasted it, Nick, I was getting like this awesome, like cherry quality to it, kind of sherry notes, tobacco.
Yeah. I'll be honest. This is maybe the eighth or ninth store pick we've done. And whenever you get a store pick, you get a couple different samples, and some of them are going to be bad. That's the thing about whiskey, is it's blended together, and on their own, a barrel might not be good, but if you can mix them together, they will be good.
Right.
But a single barrel, when it's good, it is great. When it's bad, needs a little love. I got 4 samples, and 3 of them would have been very good on their own. This one, I thought the cherry notes, I got a lot of like graham cracker type of stuff. I think the malted rye that you put in it makes a huge difference. It has the best of rye, where it's got the rye spice, the rye fruitiness, but also it has some of the sweetness of bourbon that people really like because it has that malted rye in it. So I just loved it. I was super impressed by it. The price is awesome. Obviously, we're selling it, so, little bias, but man, it's a great bottle.
Yeah, well, we are so happy to bring it to you. We lovingly refer to it as bourbon's bolder cousin. So you hit it right on the head there. If you're a bourbon drinker, you'll like it. If you're a rye drinker, you'll like it. It really kind of crosses a lot of bridges.
It's definitely unique, brings the Midwest, all the great agricultural things we do, all the great manufacturing things we do into one beautiful package. So we have a limited number because that's the nature of the beast. So pick them up. Marcus, thanks for talking about this.
Nick, this was awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to work with you all.